The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Game Podcast Network is brought to you by Fantasy. The brand new offer for new customers. Play just $5, $50 bonus funds. Use promo code SGPN. And welcome everybody to the Tennis Game Podcast here on the Sports Game Podcast Network. It is currently Friday morning, early Friday morning around 1 a.m. Eastern here on September 5th. I'm Rosa Reichel once again going solo for this pod. Time to get into the preview of the men's semifinal matches in the U.S. Open taking place on Friday. Before we get to that, though, a brief reminder. They can help support the show by subscribing on YouTube, and a reminder, you can also leave a rating and review on Spotify and Apple. Podcast available, audio format only, or, of course, the visual component with YouTube. But either way, point is make sure to leave some feedback. Make sure to help the show grow. Leave a like, subscribe on YouTube, and leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple. Plus, a reminder, check out the merch store on the SGPN website. We have a lot of great merch over there at the merch store. We have shirts, sweatshirts, mugs, different colors, high quality, and very affordable. So check that out. Plus, a reminder, we have a nice discount code for the merch store right now. We have 25% off everything in the merch store with the promo code football. So make sure to check out the Tennis Game Podcast merch and also the other shows with the network. MLB Gambling Podcast, WNBA Gambling Podcast, NBA Gambling Podcast, College Experience, you name it. Point is, though, we all have merch and you get a discount on all of it. So check out the merch store with the code football at checkout for a quarter off everything. Plus, a reminder, check out the Survivor contest. $100 entry fee, winner take all. Sign up at sportsgame.com/survivor to enter the Survivor contest. So, starting off with the actual lock and dog picks from the last episode for a recap. A reminder, this is the men's episode. We did the women's semis last episode. We're going to recap the lock and dog. We're going to ignore the match recaps from that. We're going to segue into the men's quarterfinal recap, and that's how we're going to do it. So for the lock and dog, we ended up sweeping for the women's semis. Nice and easy. We had Sabalenka team total over 12.5 at -105 on Caesars as the lock. Never in doubt, lost the first set. Ended up winning the second set comfortably, then eventually won the match, but she cashed pretty easily, never in doubt. For the dog, nice win too. We had Anisimova and Osaka over 22.5 games at +110. Flew over, match went to 3 sets. First 2 sets went to tie breaks, and Anisimova did have a lead in the second set. So either way, 2 plays that were pretty stress-free for us. The matches were intense, as each of them went to 3, but either way, our picks were the overs. That cashed easily. Nice sweep for the show, and we'll try to keep that going into this episode and, of course, the title match episodes for the men's and women's in the U.S. Open. Now, for the recap, though, of the men's quarterfinals, definitely, I'd say, straightforward. There were a couple of close matches, but for the most part, pretty straightforward. Starting off with Alcaraz, he won in straight sets against Lehecka. He played out of his mind. I thought Lehecka actually played okay, just not well enough to beat Alcaraz, who seemed to be hitting every shot he tried for about an hour and a half. Point is, though, we did have a chance to win the lock with that match. We had the alt over. Didn't get there. Lehecka needed one more hold. Got broken up 30 love. Had a pretty easy volley. Didn't really put it away and ended up getting broken. So either way, we did not really do that well in that match in particular. But Alcaraz looked great, and he won in straight sets. He's been playing great the entire event, and we'll see if he can keep it going for the semis and for the final. But Lehecka, I thought, didn't even play badly. Alcaraz is just out of his mind right now. So a straightforward win for him. Then you had our first match with some drama. Not really a ton, but still some. As Djokovic ended up beating Fritz again, 11-0 in the head-to-head now, and he won in 4. Now, Joker was up 2-0, and then he had a little bit of a moment there with the crowd. He let the crowd noise get to him. He got broken, and then Fritz won the third set. I feel like nobody at that point thought Fritz would actually be able to win the match, even though he was able to get some momentum. And of course he didn't, as Djokovic broke him to win the match. Classic Fritz loses the match on a double fault. He punted away a bunch of break points in the match, and either way, Djokovic was more opportunistic, like usual, and he ended up winning that one in 4. Still competitive, still entertaining to some degree. But I think we all knew once Fritz went 0 for 6 on breakpoint chances in the first set, it was basically over, and it was. So either way, nice win for Djokovic, as we all expected, but Fritz did win a set. Can't beat this damn guy. Classic Fritz loss, and nice Djokovic win. Now, for the matches we ended up seeing on Wednesday, we ended up seeing one match that was an epic, which I feel like nobody paid attention to because the other one involved Sinner dominating against Musetti. Now, the early match on Wednesday was the Felix and de Minaur match, which ended up going 4 sets. We got that one right completely. Thought Felix would win at around plus 130. Couldn't believe de Minaur was about minus 155, minus 160. and he shouldn't have been. He won the first set, ended up losing in 4. Every set was pretty close. You had 6-4 in favor of de Minaur in the first set. Then you ended up having 7-6, 7-5, 7-6 in favor of Felix. Match took around 4 hours, and Felix just served better, and he won. Competitive match, entertaining. Either way, point is de Minaur has still never actually made it to a Grand Slam semi. Felix, though, gets there for the second time, and good for him, was able to beat, once again, Zverev, Rublev, and de Minaur back-to-back-to-back. He is officially off the clown list. Congratulations to Felix. You might be back on it at some point, but not now. And now your honor is facing off against Sinner into the semis because Sinner ended up beating Musetti. The crazy part is Musetti actually played pretty well watching the match. And I really feel like Musetti played well enough to beat a large percentage of the tour. I thought he looked pretty good. The first set he was overwhelmed. He was a bit nervous, got buried 6-1. Then he settled in. Second set was pretty close. Third set I thought was closer than the 6-2 final score. Either way, though, Musetti played very well. He only won 7 games. 7. Yeah, that's how good Sinner is. Musetti had breakpoint chance. I believe he went 0 for 7 on those. Sinner, we know, is a machine, and he won comfortably by scoreline. Not comfortably if you actually watched the match. Musetti had some moments, but could not convert a breakpoint, and you ended up seeing Sinner just do enough in the big spots. Musetti double faulting the breakaway late in the second set. Kind of felt like the dagger in that one. And then Sinner broke immediately to start the third set. Musetti had a bunch of chances, didn't convert, and Sinner won in straight sets. Good for us. We had the Sinner straight set bet at -125. Closed at like -160. I couldn't believe Bet365 had -125. Either way, though, I ended up winning on that one. But Sinner and Alcaraz keep rolling. Djokovic is here once again, which is really crazy. One, is a compliment to him, because, of course, he's still past his prime. He's up there in years, and he's still able to make it to the semis in every single Grand Slam. However, I do want to point out that it is also an indictment on the younger generations of tennis besides Sinner and Alcaraz. Damn, you guys suck. I got nothing else to really add there. It feels like Djokovic should have been passing the torch by now. And you can argue that he has to Alcaraz and Sinner. But there's an entire generation of Zverev and Fritz and Medvedev. I know Medvedev did win a title, but still, you're looking at all those guys, Rune, you get the idea. And none of them are worth a damn at this point. And it feels like 2 guys are guaranteed to make it to the semis every time. Joker's basically guaranteed, despite being past his prime, which is insane to think about. And then you usually have a wild card entry for number 4. And this one's Felix. So Felix is the random long shot to make it into the into the semis, I mean. Congratulations. Is it going to help you against Sinner? Probably not, but you know what? At least he got here, and the fact is, I will give a tip of the cap to Felix for having a very good start to the year, was a mess for a couple months straight. He got it back together. Good for him, and now he gets to actually play in a semi once again, which can build confidence moving forward. But for the sake of Rublev and Zverev and Fritz and Medvedev and all these other guys, Rune, whatever, damn, you guys are underwhelming. I got nothing else to add. But still, Joker doing Joker things. Alcaraz and Sinner have been coasting, and we'll see what happens in the semis. Now, I don't believe I have anything else to really talk about. I was going to save, once again, the women's matches for the actual recap for the next episode. So I'm trying to think if there's anything I really want to talk about for tennis. I can't really think of much. I think the one thing that I will point out is that I did think it was a little bit weird that a lot of people were kind of hating on the Felix and de Minaur match for being a poorly played match. Listen, I don't really care. At the end of the day, the match was 4 hours. Every set was close. You're probably picking Sinner to destroy whoever won that match anyway. It was the most competitive matchup of the round. I don't really get the idea of trying to criticize both players who looked arguably underwhelming for 4+ hours. I thought the match was pretty good. It was close. You could argue that both guys were choking. That's fine. There was drama involved. It was close and Felix won. So either way, nice job by Felix. But I'll point out one other thing, that both Ben Shelton and Tommy Paul, of course, did get injured in the U.S. Open, and they are missing the Davis Cup. Do I care about the Davis Cup? No, not really. But if you do care, no Shelton and no Paul being involved. So keep that in mind. Besides that, nothing else to really talk about. Time to move on into the matches for the semis. Now, before we get into the matches for the semis, a reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor, MyBookie.ag. Using bet on football, using the bet with the prop builder as well. You could use their platform for anything, basically. They have a motto, which kind of sums it all up: bet on anything, anywhere, anytime. Easily deposit, and you're letting fast payouts with crypto. And a reminder, you'd also use the promo code SGPN when you sign up for a new account to get 100% payback bonus up to $500 for new customers. I will get a G promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Check out their models for different sports. They have college football, they have the NFL, they have MLB, they have WNBA, even golf. Check it out. They also have a brand new leaderboard, I'd say, giveaway. If they let you track your own bets that you can build from your own model. And a reminder that they have weekly cash prizes just for tracking your bets in the app. Once again, the plays don't even have to win. Just track 5 plays of the same type from any model you build, and you can win $1,000. But you will also have a nice promo link with Rhythm to get you a free 7-day free trial. Check out the link, sportsgambling.com Rhythm, to get your 7-day free trial. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the recap of the men's quarters. Time to move on into the men's semis. Now, the first match, which might sound a bit weird, is going to be the best one because you have Djokovic against Alcaraz in the day portion at around 3 p.m. Eastern. Then you have Sinner and Felix in the night match at around 7 p.m. Eastern. If you care about women's doubles, that's the first match of the day. You have Tauson and Siniakova against Rutilif and Dabrowski. So if you care about women's doubles, that's the title match for there. But either way, point is, first match, Joker against Alcaraz, rematch of the Australian Open upset, where Joker did beat Alcaraz in 4. Now for this one, Alcaraz massive favorite. The lines continued to climb as Alcaraz about minus 375. Joker's around 3-1 for the spread, minus 5.5 for Alcaraz, plus 5.5 for Djokovic. Bit of juice there for Djokovic, though, minus 115. For the over-under, I see 26.5 or 27.5. For the set spread, you have Alcaraz minus 1.5 sets at around minus 160. Joker to win 2 sets is plus 124. For the over 3.5 sets, I see minus 170. For the over 4.5 sets, I see plus 254. Alcaraz in straight sets is around plus 170. Joker to win in straight sets is around plus 825. And if you actually want to go for a realistic long shot, Djokovic minus 1.5 sets is plus 440. Now, for the meetings recently, once again, Joker did beat him in the most recent Grand Slam meeting, as he ended up beating him in 4 in the Aussie Open. We saw them face off in the Olympics last year in the gold medal match. Joker did win in straight sets, 2 tie breaks. We saw Alcaraz beat Djokovic in the Wimbledon finals back-to-back times, but hardcourt has been favorable to Joker against Alcaraz. So looking at the actual meetings, you had the Australian Open, which Djokovic did win, faced off in Saudi Arabia, and you ended up seeing Alcaraz win in 3. ATP Finals last year, you saw Djokovic win in 2023. Cincinnati was the epic. Joker did win as well, and that's the only, once again, history that they have. So the only win that Alcaraz has against Djokovic on hardcourt was an exhibition in Saudi Arabia. But we all know that Alcaraz is in great form. Joker keeps getting older, and Alcaraz keeps getting closer to his prime. And for the path so far, I think we'd all agree that Alcaraz has been more impressive so far up to this point. He's been perfect, not dropping a set. And then beating Opelka, beat Bellucci, beat Darderi, beat Rinderknech, beat Leheshka, all 3-0. As for Joker, he has dropped some sets, dropped a set to Fritz in the last round, beat Struff in straight sets, beat Nori in 4, beat Svaja in 4, and beat Tien in 3. So the real question here is, I think we all know deep down, even though the head-to-head on hardcourt favors Djokovic, I think we all were expecting Alcaraz and Sinner in the final. And I guess the question is, does anything sway me to reconsider my position for that? For me, no. I really don't think so. I believe that Alcaraz will win this match, and I do agree with the line move. Now, you could argue it's disrespectful to Djokovic that he's this big of a dog at around 3-1. I don't know if I agree with that. And the fact that the match is being played during the daytime is not ideal either if the sun's out and it's pretty hot. But Alcaraz has been rolling. Joker, despite beating Fritz, faced a ton of breakpoint chances. He cannot afford to live that dangerously against Alcaraz, obviously. And I do think it was more a matter of survival and kind of letting Fritz implode rather than playing classic Djokovic elite tennis. He played well enough in the big points, obviously, but Fritz did have 13 breakpoint chances and only went 2 of 13. So I do think Alcaraz will get a bunch of breakpoint chances here, and I do think he'll win. The question is, do I think Joker wins 1 set, potentially 0, or do I think he actually makes it a war? It would not shock me if Alcaraz won in straight sets, to be honest. It would be a very underwhelming outcome for what is definitely the matchup of the day on paper. But I think Alcaraz right now is playing tennis at a certain level that I just don't see Djokovic keeping up with. Alcaraz has played his best tennis recently on hard court, won the title in Cincinnati, and he ended up carrying that over, not dropping a set here in the US Open. Djokovic has made it to this point. Good for him. We picked him to. But at the same point, I thought the draw was pretty weak, and Fritz, we know, does not scare us at all, and Djokovic owns him, both mentally and in the head-to-head. So I'll go Alcaraz here. I think Alcaraz might actually win this in straight sets. If I had to go for anything, the -1.5 sets at around -160 is a bit expensive. I agree with it personally. I think Alcaraz has looked like he's found a certain groove on hard court that he's really not shown regularly in his past in Grand Slams. Yes, he won the US Open. It was a bit of a shortened field to some degree with the COVID stuff. He had the 5-set marathon against Sinner, and somehow Rude made a Grand Slam final on hard court, which is insane to think about. But Alcaraz, I think, is playing his best tennis right now ever on hard court, and I think that should give him enough juice to win. Now, Djokovic does have the chance at maybe getting the benefit of the doubt from the extra time off. Alcaraz can cool down. Maybe he'll find a lot of errors, and Djokovic can do enough to win like he did in Australia. I don't see it, personally. I'm going to go with Alcaraz here. I'll go with the -1.5 sets. It's juicy, I understand, but I really think Djokovic is, in my opinion, outmatched here based on, of course, youth and based on overall firepower right now at this stage in their careers. The Djokovic serve is problematic to me, and I think Alcaraz will jump on it. So give me Alcaraz in what could be three sets, but instead I'll leave the door open for Djokovic to win one. Give me Alcaraz -1.5 sets here at -160 as my main thought for this one. Moving on to the next matchup. This is the expected bloodbath, because I said before, Felix ended up getting off the clown list, and his reward was facing off against Sinner. And he is a 16-1 dog, or about a 16, 14, give or take. Shop around, but I see around 14-1. Sinner -3,500 in this one. Sinner's been rolling besides one tough match against Chapo, where he kind of dominated the last couple of sets, but still, Sinner -7.5 games, -130. Felix +7.5 games, +110. For the over-under, I see 30.5. Juice, though, to the under at -115. For the actual set spread, Sinner in straight sets is -200. Felix +2.5 sets is +153. So the real question is not even if Felix is going to win. The question is, will Felix win a set, or is he going to get his ass kicked? And we saw them face off a couple weeks ago in Cincinnati. Felix was undefeated, actually, against Sinner. He was 2-0, beating him in Cincinnati 2022 and beating him in Madrid in 2022. So that was before the Sinner, I'd say, coming out party as being the #1 player in the world. And they faced off, and Sinner not only won to get some revenge, it was an absolute destruction. 6-0, 6-2. Now, Felix did break in the match, but that does mean he held serve one time in the entire match. One single time he held serve. So for me, I think that Sinner's obviously going to win. I think he'll win in straight sets. Now, Felix, I do think, can possess some weapons that can frustrate Sinner. We saw Musetti get in some long rallies, and he actually performed pretty well. Musetti's serve was on point, and that was actually able to result in a couple of potentially dicey moments for Sinner because Musetti was able to hold serve. Felix does have a good serve. So if Felix's serve is on, he can force some long sets, maybe even force a breaker in the match. We'll see. Am I picking him to win a set? No. I think Sinner is going to win. Sinner is an absolute machine. I got nothing else to add. I think Sinner and Alcaraz will be the final. Nothing has changed. A big Joker to actually make it to the semis as well, and he did. So we got 3 out of 4 for the semifinals, and we'll see what happens moving forward. But either way, the point is I'm going Sinner in straight sets. Felix, maybe, if he plays insanely well and he red lines, he might win one set. But Musetti was redlining, and Musetti actually looked really good, and it didn't matter. Sinner was just not blinking on anything. He controlled the rallies. He forced Musetti around the court. I know that Felix will be more aggressive than Musetti mindset-wise, but I just think Sinner's too good. You might get a 6-4, 7-6, 6-4, something like that, but maybe the over in games is worth a look if you think there is a breaker. But in reality, I think Sinner's too good. Just give me Sinner to win this one in straight sets. The problem is it's minus 200, so you're kind of stuck. I actually do have a play for this match that I'm saving as my lock, believe it or not, for the end of the show. But for the actual spread and total, etc., it's really tough to find anything for this match. It's really tough, to be honest. I don't really have much. If you could find a Sinner team total under 19.5, maybe, but they really priced you out of it entirely. At least for the Musetti match, you were able to get straight sets at a reasonable price at minus 125, minus 130. Minus 200, I just can't take. So I got nothing for this one, basically. I have one play that I'm saving for later. It's a niche prop. You might not be able to find it on your book. Apologies there. But I had to find ways to find value for two massive favorites. And this one is kind of a joke at minus 3,500 for the semis of a tournament. So, yeah, I think Sinner wins in straight sets. I don't mind team total under 19.5. You could find it. But for the most part, you're kind of priced out entirely of this match. Unless you're picking Sinner to either win comfortably in straight sets and it goes under, you're picking Felix hanging in there and it goes over. But I guess if I had to go for anything, maybe Felix spread, but he just lost 6-0, 6-2 to the guy. So it's tough. I'll put it that way. Sinner straight sets, I guess, but I'm really running out of options for this matchup. Anyway, it's going to wrap it up for the actual preview of the men's semis here in the U.S. Open. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. So before we get into the lock and dog, a reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor on Fantasy. Check them out for the pick'em entries you can do up to 500 times your entry. Also check out the new deal they have for new customers. Play just $5, $50 in bonus funds. Use promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Novig. A reminder that they are America's #1 sports prediction market. Since Novig is in exchange, you'll get better prices than the sportsbooks give you. Novig is also available in 35 plus states. Download the Novig app. Get $50 when you spend just $5. If you use the promo code SGPN, get on the action with Novig promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the preview of the men's semis. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. So for the lock, I was going to consider Alcaraz minus 1.5 sets. However, it was 175 when I initially compiled the notes, and now it's 160. Still expensive. I don't hate it, but you know what? I'll pass on it because I think it's a little bit too expensive. So instead, I'm going back to the Sinner and Felix match. And you know what? I'm going to go for a very ballsy play. But I do think the price is too good to pass up on. Believe it or not, I'm picking Felix to break serve one time. Felix to record one break of serve is minus 120. I understand that Sinner has been serving very well. I get it. One break of serve at minus 120, I think is just a hell of a price. It's 3 sets minimum. I think Felix can do enough to force a couple of breakpoint chances. Hopefully, he converts one of them. Felix, though, has been returning quite well, including 2 out of 3 set matches. Felix has recorded at least one break of serve. In 15 straight matches, Sinner, despite not getting broken against Musetti, did face 7 break points. He has allowed at least 5 break points in 3 of his last 4 matches. The one exception was Bublik, of course. Bublik, despite losing 6-1, 6-1, 6-1, still had a break point. So you might see Felix get a couple of chances here. He needs to convert one. I don't think Sinner wins this match without facing at least one break point. Might be a couple. But Sinner has allowed a couple of chances. He's been able to fight them all for the most part. But I do think that Felix can find an opening to get at least one break of serve. Will he win a set? I didn't say that. But I do think he can find a way. Once again, the face-off in Cincinnati, he lost 6-0, 6-2. He's still broke. He did end up breaking serve one time in that match, so he has recorded at least one break in all 3 head-to-head meetings against Sinner. Simply put, though, for a 3 out of 5 set match, a guy to record one break, and he's not Isner or Opelka or Karlovic, a guy that could actually return to record one break at minus 120, I think it's a bargain. I understand Sinner's a monster. He's still going to win. But minus 120 is a very good price for one break of serve. That was on Bet365. I'll take that as my lock for the show. For the dog, I'm going to go to the Alcaraz and Djokovic match. I did find one plus money play. I'm going to go with It is not the straight sets. Instead, I'm going to go with the under half a tie break at plus 106. So the last two hardcore meetings in Australia and in the ATP finals last year or 2 years ago, those were actually not featuring a single tiebreak. So we have seen a bit of history support the actual play. 4 sets in the Aussie Open, none of them went past 6-4. I do think you're looking at what could be a pretty good spot where if Alcaraz jumps him, he wins comfortably, you get no tiebreak, or maybe you even get Djokovic battling some breaks of serve, and you end up getting 4 sets with no tiebreaks. But I do want to point out, Alcaraz has really avoided breakers quite easily so far over the last couple of weeks and months. So Alcaraz has had 0 tiebreaks in 10 of his last 11 matches, and I'm not including the Sinner retirement in the first set. So even ignoring that match, 10 of the last 11 completed matches that Alcaraz has played in has not had a tiebreak. So he's been pretty good at winning sets early, and I do think that, once again, plus money is appealing. If Alcaraz jumps him, gets a bunch of break points, he might win each set, easily, and you still avoid the tiebreak. I just see, once again, at least 1 break per set. And with that being the case, I do think that a tiebreak at plus money, or I should say avoiding a tiebreak at plus money, has some value. So I'm going to go with the niche plays here. I'm going to apologize in advance if your book doesn't have it. It's really tough when you have a minus 375 favorite or minus 3,500 favorite. But I did find a couple props I'm tempted by. That tiebreak play was on Bet Rivers, by the way, at plus 106. It was minus 110 on DraftKings, so I did find a better number. But once again, I'll go with the niche plays here, and hopefully Felix gets the job done for 1 break of serve for the lock. So once again, the plays here for the men's semis. The lock's going to be on Felix to record 1 break of serve at minus 120. That's on Bet365. For the dog, I am going to go with the Alcaraz and Djokovic match, no tie breaks, at plus 106, and wrap it up for the show. We'll back once again to get into the women's final after those men's matches go final. But until next time, find me on Twitter's radio. And once again, find me on other podcasts, the NBA Gambling Podcast, WNBA Gambling Podcast, MLB Gambling Podcast. And a reminder, for the NFL, we're doing a prop show. The Propcast is back. We recorded our first episode once again on Thursday. So if you want some Week 1 NFL plays, Adam and I did also do a prop show for football. Check that out. Anyway, till next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.